Welcome back to the Everything Property Podcast. Today I have Vincent Holthouse to talk us through all things rooming houses, entrepreneurship, and quite an interesting life story. Vincent, thanks for joining me on the Everything Property Podcast. How are you?
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm doing well. A little bit cold here in New South Wales, but I'm happy to be here, mate. So thanks for having me on.
Says the bloody Victorian. You brought up the cold weather with you. But look, man, I appreciate you jumping on. I always say there's a lot of people in property doing a lot of different things, strategies and all that kind of stuff. Obviously brought you on because I think you've got a unique strategy compared to just the normal sort of buy and hold and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But before we dig into probably what that is, well, first and foremost, I want to know what property is for you. We were talking about it a little bit off air, but what is property for Vincent Holthouse?
Yeah, so property is a vehicle. One of the things that's a little bit taboo is I don't love property. What I do love is the opportunity that property creates. So property can give you that time freedom, that lifestyle freedom, and I've taken it on as a little bit of a mission. I see a lot of people, I feel like when you're going about the world, you've probably got a few things that you notice, some wrongs in the world or some things that you've had to battle through yourself. And one thing that's always come up for me is that I feel like people go into these jobs and these careers because they feel like they have to. It's like you became a butcher's apprentice when you were 14 and then you wake up at 50 and you're like, holy fuck, I've given my whole life to this thing just because it was this social norm. It was sort of bred into us. With property, it offers an opportunity for people to escape that and start living life on their terms. So when I say I don't care about property, what I mean is I care about the vehicle and I care about people living life on their terms. So having the opportunity when you look in the mirror, it's like, how do I actually want to be living? And one of the rules I've got is if I look in the mirror 3 days in a row and I say, am I happy here? If the answer is no, I'll make a change. The problem is people get hyper aware of this problem and this change they want to make, but they don't have the vehicle, which is where property comes in. So it's like, I want to teach guitar to children in Africa, but no one's going to pay me to do that. And it's like, well, can you make a 60K income? Can you afford to buy the flights? Can you find a way for someone to pay money into your account every week so that you can actually start living this lifestyle? Cash flow positive property offers you that much more than conventional property. Like you hear a lot of guys talk about, it's like play this buyer's agent game, do it for 20 or 30 years and then eventually get a hold of a bit of commercial real estate for $4 million. And then you've got cash flow. For me, step one, cash flow. Because then you can start living life how you actually want to be living it. If it's that weird example of the guitar or it's like you want to go and do whatever, or like you should have the opportunity to be able to go and do that. And it makes me sad. I've always noticed growing up that I saw people who weren't living life on their own terms. And that's really what I want to help people with.
When you were, I totally agree. Property, vehicle to unlock that. Some people like yourself maybe don't enjoy it. I'm more in the development space, so I love the bricks and the mortar and the site. So we're opposite, but that doesn't make us, any different. We can play on and definitely respect each other's positions. Talk to me. Growing up, what was Vincent like at school?
Yeah.
What were their ambitions, and how do we get out of what was that journey like for you?
So to be clear, just to rewind a little bit, I love business and I like the vehicle that real estate offers. So I really enjoy my work when I was doing this cash flow real estate stuff. It was just that it could have been any vehicle and I would have been really happy with it. Yeah, so growing up, man, I've always been outside of the social norms. I have ADHD, so in conventional schooling, I never did really well. And I was put into type of like special ed, maths programs, and all sorts of things like that. I was always getting into trouble. Teachers would take me for like hearing tests because they were wondering, why aren't you doing the work? Why aren't you listening in class? It's in hindsight, it's I was just hyper focused. It's a little bit funny in hindsight, but I was just hyper focused on what I wanted to be doing, and I wouldn't put any time into any other stuff. Usually when you're the rebellious kids, you're hanging out with the smokers, you're wagging school, and that led me into drugs and drug addiction. I got out of that at 24. I'm 32 now.
Yep.
And
what addiction?
So I was really big on everything. So for me, personal development means that I'm taking control and accountability for my energy. So without the woo-woo stuff, that means having a set routine, wake up times. I'm doing breathwork meditation.
In the gym,
I'm deep on that stuff. And with drug addiction, it was a similar journey because I was like trying to time it. Like if you go to a party and it's like I have beers until I'm too drunk, and then I'll have a line, and then I'll calm down in the evening with some weed, and I'll wake up and I'll equalize myself with these different substances. And personal development has been the same for me as well. It's like I had too much coffee, I've got anxiety, I'm going to do some breath work, I'm going to do some mindfulness. I need to eat these foods because these foods make me feel like shit. So I've always been really big on that. I just didn't know it. A lot of addicts are really good at maintaining their own internal energy. In fact, they will rip their whole life to shreds in pursuit of that. It happens to be hedonistic and it happens to cause chaos, but the continuation of that journey is personal development, because you're still doing the same thing. You're constantly hyper focused on what your state is and where your head's at, and like, do you feel good right now? If not, what do I need to do? Do I need to do like stand up and do some squats or do some stretching, or do I need to wake up earlier because I feel more tired if I sleep in? So it's interesting. A lot of people don't think about it like that. So I've been really blessed to be able to continue that, funnily enough, that drug addiction journey through personal development. So I wasn't necessarily wrong, but I did fuck everything up horribly.
Okay, well, I mean, one thing, it's cool to see that you've got out of that. The second would be, you would have to be the only person that I've interviewed that has made a comparable likeness between drug addiction and personal development. So that's very interesting.
Relentless pursuit of your internal state.
What is the trigger moment at 24 that gets you out of that?
Well, my sister and my mother pulled me aside, and I love them both dearly for it. And they just said, "You're going to die."
Like and we don't have to. Don't have to go into this if you don't want. But
no, it's fine.
At what stage is ground zero? Like, where did you come back from?
Yeah, so I mean,
24. Like, is it for
me? I was importing pharmaceuticals. Yeah. When the Silk Road was around, Xanax, Valium, prescription opiates. I was shooting up meth, heroin. I was taking lots of acid. I was smoking weed since I was like 15 or 16. So I was in pretty deep. And it was the ride of a life. And I'm very blessed because I had a lot of just really great times. Like I've always been on the edge there. It's also why business suits me so well, because it's always exciting, always new things happening in business, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it sort of suits my personality. A lot of people break and crumble there, but I sort of live on the edge, and I did that there, and I sort of do it now. Yeah, it's a strange way to look at it, but that was the edge for me, man. So I was stealing food. At one stage, I remember driving around with my dog using coupons for McDonald's because I'd been up for a couple of days on heroin, and I was hungry. I had no money, and I went and stole fuel, and then took coupons. And was driving around to McDonald's and stuff like that with a dog in the back seat. Someone had left these Big Mac coupons at my house. And that was me, man. I was going and stealing steak from the shop. I remember going into some shops and like getting followed around and not being able to get chased out. I mean, not being able to get any food from that place, getting chased out. And it wasn't just for the rush. It was because I was bloody hungry, literally. So it was pretty brutal. It was a pretty brutal existence. And that's what those choices had led to, so it was a compounding effect. It started with just a bit of fun, wagging school and smoking a joint or something like that. And that path, those choices, they led into like hell. I mean, if you've never seen anybody in hell, then you haven't been paying attention, because a lot of people sort of take themselves there through their choices. I feel.
That's good. And then it was an ultimatum. 24, your mum and your sister sit you down.
Yep.
And how was that rebuild journey starting from scratch?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to go and see a wellness coach, and the rehab looked like acupuncture, like prescribed nutrition. I was at this retreat for a couple of weeks. He talked about energy and chi and all of these different aspects, and I didn't understand the theory behind it, but essentially what it was a lifestyle practice. And it's what you hear on every podcast where the guys talk about how they're doing like they wake up early and they eat the right food and they train and whatever else. It's that. So that was the pathway to salvation for me. And because it was such dire straits, I didn't have anything to cling on to, and that's what I clung on to that. And so I mean, if I don't know what your lifestyle's like, but for me, it took a long time to get used to waking up at 4 or 5 o'clock. And I had to say goodbye to all the friends who were still doing that. So I'm 24. I've got no friends. I'm living a hard life, but it wasn't harder than what I was living. Mm-hmm. And it was hard because I was waking up early and whatever else. And the entrepreneurial spark was in me since I was young. I'd take my family lawnmower and try and knock on doors to mow lawns. And I'd walk around with a bucket and stuff. And I'd get cigarettes in school and go and sell them one by one. So I'd had this entrepreneurial spark.
Splitting up the pack.
Yeah, it's arbitrage. It's funnily enough.
Literally.
It's like the rental arbitrage stuff. But it was essentially that as I got better, healthier, stronger, that spark grew and I was able to move into business quite naturally. Mm-hmm. I did have a stint there where I was working conventional jobs, but it wasn't before that. And it hasn't been after that. And I hated that little middle ground. I always sort of avoided conventional.
So a bit of time to get yourself back on your feet. And then when does real estate come into it?
2018. I got sober in 2016.
Okay. What's the real estate like?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So I was living in shared houses and I went and stayed at this shared house with a guy who was in finance. And like a lot of property investors, property is sort of this supplement where they want it to be 100% passive, right? They buy the property, he had his finance business, he had a family, but he was renting room by room. And because, I was no longer partying or anything, I was responsible and my actions showed that to him. So he turned around to me and he said, look, I can't be bothered getting people to move into these rooms and out of these rooms. So what I want to do is I want to give you this main lease, the head lease here. Mm-hmm. And you can go and do what I was doing. And I'm going to put a little bit more money on the rent. And you can take care of any maintenance that comes up. Like you can arrange the maintenance and just send me the invoice. So I was managing the property for him and I was paying him more rent. And I was
paying him more rent to live there?
Yeah. So he said, Vince, this should be let's say $400 or $500 this property. I want you to give me $600. And I want you to take care of arranging trades if they need to come through. And in return, you can go and rent out the 6 rooms. So if I'm paying, let's say $500 or $600, but I'm renting these 6 rooms at $250 to $300, then I create an income. And I was off to the races then.
In 2018?
2018. So that first one covered my rents and gave me an income.
Okay.
It's just like that.
And then how do you roll on? Because it's been some time between then. So that's almost by chance, right? By luck.
Yeah, circumstantially. Yeah. But I was always looking for opportunities, and my whole life was leading up to that because I was always sort of looking at this stuff. I was always trying to find ways to make money. And when you train yourself to see stuff, it's like when you're looking for a certain property, right? And you're looking on realestate.com, and it's like, oh, this one can work, and this one can work, and this one can work. But a year before that, you were looking and you never saw any of that stuff. It's because if you're looking for opportunities, you can focus your lens and I had a focused lens, so I saw this opportunity come up, and I grabbed it.
What you focus on, I think you get more of. Yeah. Same for people that are looking for a certain car or something like that, where they're like, oh, I'm looking for this type of car, and then
you see it on the road everywhere,
every single where. So, how do you then? Is there a exercise of scaling out, or how do you? I mean, that's brought in some of an income, but how do you go about building this thing out and seeing if it's got legs and making mistakes and all that sort of stuff?
So it looked like one of the first things that I was doing was I was calling around to agents and owners, and I was building myself some evidence. So basically I was seeing, is this possible to scale out? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, this is fantastic. Is it repeatable? Right? Am I just some lucky snowflake where I had this miracle show up in my life and I couldn't do it again? Mm-hmm. And so I started calling around to different agents and owners, and I spent a lot of time just in my phone, and I'd mark them with a tick or an X next to them. I think I was like a fire symbol or like a poop emoji, whether or not they'd actually want to work with me. And I scaled it out. I built the evidence there, and then I'd section off a little bit of money, whatever money I had. I did a lot of them where I'd try and negotiate a month rent free, which a lot of owners were happy with because we were coming into COVID, right? So it was a good time for me to be trying to scale this thing out.
Yeah.
And and a lot of people were leaving the country. So circumstantially, I could go in, I can get into them with nearly no money. The rents are a little bit lower than they might have been, say, now. And I was starting to get my foot in the door. For a lot of the first ones, I was getting together just a rent and bond. And I'd go in, there'd be no extra rooms. Like I wouldn't add rooms, which we do now. So we take large houses, 4 and 5 bedrooms, and we add extra bedrooms and then rent them out one by one. But for me, initially I'd just go in and maybe I wouldn't even furnish it. I'd just fill it up. And then once I've got 5 rooms full, I've got some cash flow coming in that I didn't have the month before, I can go and build the extra room or 2. And that was basically it. I didn't know anything about compliance.
Well, how do you, in those initial and early days, my first where my mind goes to is, you've got no job, you've got maybe some money coming in from a rental, but as any property manager would do to that, vets you and says, are we going to give this guy a lease? You're not really showing a solid and stable income. So how did you navigate that?
After the first one, it got a lot easier. Like if I've got, I'm not great with maths, but if I had 6 rooms, all of them are doing 250 to 300. The cash flow looks pretty good pretty quickly. Just deposits coming into my account. So after the first one, it got a lot easier.
But how did you don't have an income. You have the rent coming in, but you've also got the rent going out. So how do you go to a property manager and say, yeah, I want to take this lease when, like, they're going to say, oh, what do you do for work? What's your income? And what are you saying there? Are you saying you're making up a job, or are you saying this is what I do? What's that negotiation?
So the number one thing's got to be transparency with it. A lot of people, particularly when you're starting out, like if you're successful at it, it sort of changes, but everyone sort of guns for the little guy when you're starting out. So if I'm showing up, I'm 25 years old, and I have this conversation where it's like, I'm building this company, I'm offering this service where we rent rooms to students and working professionals in the area. I don't have a lot of money, but I can pay the bond. If you can give me a couple of weeks rent, I can give you extra rent. If you can give me a couple of weeks rent free, I can give you extra rent. So we could incentivize it on the front end. So when you have, it's a bit of a numbers game, but when you have that sort of mentality and you're transparent about it, people are happy to give you a shot. Do you know what I mean?
How was your hit rate with that? Because I'm saying, as a property owner, as an investor, I don't know if I'd like that. Because I straight away go, there's going to be people going in and out. There's going to be more damage. There's going to be work. So they're going to rectify it. Yeah,
it's a great question. So it comes down to how you frame it.
So
if I came to you and I was like, hey, there's going to be lots of people coming in and out. There's going to be property damage.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to be a problem.
Correct.
People's minds are pretty good at making that stuff up or running through those pros and cons. So what it would look like is, hey, I own a relocation service. We focus on properties just like this, and we rent long term. So you're going to want low turnover. You want low maintenance costs. You want higher rents, and you don't want to have to worry about paying a property manager. I'll manage it for free. I'll give you an extra $100. I'll pay maintenance up to $2,000 a year, and I'm going to do it for 5 years. Would you be open to a long-term lease? And for investors that are doing like land banking, or if they've not lived in that house, personally, and they're not emotionally connected to the property, they're going to be pretty inclined to do that, because the reality is, for that owner, they'll be sitting at the Christmas table and they'll be talking to their friends and family about how they get the best rents on the street. Property management's free. They're making an extra $100. They don't have to worry about, they worry about like, and these are just terms that we can negotiate, but they don't only worry about, let's say, white goods, pipes under the ground and electrics in the roof. And we'd worry about wobbly door handles, blocked toilets, et cetera, et cetera. So if we looked at the numbers, and for a logical guy, I assume you're quite logical when you're doing it. You can look at your spreadsheet and it's night and day. It's like this thing went from being okay to being pretty good. It's neutral. So we can use logic to get on board. And if you can frame it right and you've got a level of certainty when you're approaching them, then people can see the pathway there. It's like, and we have like your Ray Whites and Jealous Craigs, and even families that have 2, 3, 4 or 5 properties who regularly came back and said, hey, I've got another one. And the property managers would feel like hot shots as well, because it's like the sales team just brings through the client, and they go to the leasing team, and the BDM there just says, hey, actually I can rent this out for you for 5 years. Don't worry about unblocking the toilet. Don't worry about whatever. What I'll do is I'll just get you an extra $100 in rent. We don't have to spend any money on marketing, and you can start collecting cash today. How does that sound? And the owners are like, great, like, let's do that. So the property managers themselves, like, they look pretty good.
But aren't you managing it yourself though?
We can.
Yeah.
So all the terms that we can lay out is any problem that an owner has. So it could be land tax, rates, like commercial leases, right? Insurance costs, maintenance, higher rents, longer leases, any of these things. Even sometimes we'll go in and we'll replace carpets these days because we've got more capital. We'll replace carpets, or we'll build an extra toilet, or whatever it is. So any issue that an owner has, sometimes it's even that they've got all their family furnishings in the house, and they're like, oh, I don't want to move it, I'm moving interstate, and no one rents it because it's already furnished with all this weird like Chinese furniture and stuff. So we'll say, we'll rent it and we'll pay for the storage for this stuff. Or it's like they've got this, I don't know, the house is trashed, the kitchen is dilapidated, and it's like, okay, well, we'll put in a new 4-burner, et cetera, et cetera. So this sort of stuff we can use as negotiating terms. So any issue that an owner's got.
How did you, in the early days of this, come up with the feasibility of how much more you can pay, what areas it's going to work in?
Yeah.
Because I would imagine, same for any sort of rooming houses, micro apartments, there's going to be different areas where this works good and great in, and others where not so much. Yeah. So how did you do that sort of research with sort of your start? Yeah. So rent to rent, we can make anywhere from 40 to 80K per property, and we can go into blue chip areas because we're not having to pay huge amounts. So we go to where the traffic is, basically, right? Traffic in what sense? In terms of like rental demand. So we don't need to go out into the boonies, out into the sticks or the regional areas, right? Yeah. We can go straight in near the CBD, or we can go within 20 clicks of the CBD and do it there. So we can basically increase the odds that this thing's going to rent pretty quickly. We can also use, and for anyone watching at home who wants to pull apart what's your property worth, could you do this with whatever? Value My Room Flatmates is owned by realestate.com. Realestate.com used to have room rentals on their website. They don't anymore. If you see people trying to do rooming houses on realestate.com, it's like some agent who doesn't know what he's doing. It's the wrong place to advertise it. Flatmates is owned by Real Estate, and you can see what the last 10 property rooms rented for. How many people in that area are looking per room offered. So it might be 15 people for every one room offered. What the average price of every room that's ever rented in that suburb is, and then the surrounding suburbs. So you can say, I've got an average of 270. I've got a 15-to-1 demand ratio, and I can see the other rooms look trash. And if I were just to spend $1,000 on little fake plants and artwork and proper bedding and whatever else. Nice photos. Yeah, nice photos. Yep. Yeah, you got ChatGPT. There's no excuse. Yeah. Like, just take a photo of the empty room and get it put together. By the way, people who do photography might be in trouble with that stuff, when it comes to like still images of furnished houses. But anyway, so Value My Room Flatmates, you can look at a deal. Yep. And then you just decide what you want. So it's like when I first started, it was 30 grand that I'd look for. And then by the end... 30 grand per property after costs? Yeah. Okay. In profit. Towards the end of it, I started seeing that I could get 40, 50, 60, 70, 80K for these places. And for a 9-bedroom, for example, I wouldn't do one that's under like 70K. What are the numbers on something like that? You got any of those deals live or that you've done recently? We did one in Hawthorne. Off the top of my head, I know the rents were about $1,200. It was owned by a guy who used to have a Chinese restaurant, and he used to have his employees in there, and they were in there long term, and it was unregistered. We went in and registered the thing. We spent about 40. Registered in what way? Council registration. So did the compliance. Okay. You need council registration. You need to follow state regulation. Okay. Yep. And we gave them that $1,200 or whatever it was, and then rented the rooms out for about $300 each, and that's 9 rooms. So I think that's about 70 or 80 grand per year. Mm-hmm. And then we averaged $26 to $32 per person
per room for gas, water, electricity, internet, gardening, and cleaning. Per person per week, $26 to $32, and we put that on top of the rent. So when we're doing our numbers, we can see the average is $300. We look at the floor plan, we see we can do 9 rooms. We look at the rent, it's $1,200, and then we add in our $30 to $40 on top, and we just put that in the listing. It's like, bills.
All inclusive.
Bills on top, 30 to 40 or whatever you want it to be. The numbers on this and why it really worked for me was because the numbers are straightforward. Like, there is not a lot of variables there. We're not talking about like LMI and like insurances and like, the debt percentage that we're going to get, and like when we refinance and what the capital growth will be based on these little heat maps or whatever we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And it trips people up because people expect that because they've gone and bought properties before and they're like, oh, I need to crack this code. This stuff's relatively straightforward.
What about churn and burn in terms of you've got 9 people in there,
Yep.
You're managing 9 people.
Mm-hmm.
What's your, I would assume with people like this are maybe sometimes between gigs, coming out of relationships, traveling for work.
Almost always.
What is your experience around those minimum stays and the churn of finding people and vacancies and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we averaged 90% occupancy even in COVID. I operated these throughout a pandemic, which is why you wouldn't go into like short-term rental Airbnb stuff, because that doesn't have any stability, and in times of uncertainty, it's a bad idea. This means that with rooming houses, we can sit at that 90% and we can lock in 12-month leases. So consistent cash flow. We'll be happy with 3-month leases, but we'll lock in 12-month leases. I'd say that the average...
With the people that you're bringing in?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Is that a formal tenancy agreement?
Rooming house agreement.
Rooming house agreement.
Yeah, so we operate under a different legislation.
Okay.
It's not the Residential Tenancies Act.
What about compliance?
Yeah, so 6 bedrooms in Perth, no compliance. It's 5 bedrooms in Queensland. You need to take it from a Class 1A to a Class 1B building, so it's a change of use.
Mm-hmm.
You probably spend about $15,000 doing that. Victoria's the same. 1A to 1B, but you can do 9 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
New South Wales was good with 5 bedrooms, but it's up in the air right now, and it looks like a council process. So what that means is if the council says they want tinsel above every doorway, you've got to go and do it. So you can't say it's going to cost me, like we can with other places, it's going to cost me $5,000 or $10,000. We're at the whim of the council.
So these are working more outside of New South Wales?
More outside of New South Wales. But I'm seeing 2 students here today. And we've got VJ who did one in Perth. He spent $18,000 on it, a couple of days for the reno, and he's selling it for $40,000. So a chunk of cash.
Okay.
Which is powerful. He's a buyer's agent, and he wants to be able to step into that. Right. So
who's he selling that deal to? How do you sell that lease?
Yeah. So when I started becoming more, for lack of a better word, like mature in this space, when I've been doing it for a while, I realized that I could renovate one for $40,000, and then if the yearly income's $80,000, people are happy to pay $80,000 for one of these, because over 5 years, that's like a 70% cash on cash return. It's huge. I also knew that if I could find one of these deals, I could sell it for like $5,000 or $10,000, because someone could go and spend the other 20 or 30 or 10 or whatever it is, and do the deal and have that $40,000 income or have that $60,000 income. So the demand's out there, but it's sort of like a blue ocean in terms of like, there's not many people doing it. And the benefit that I've got is that I've been posting online for a couple of years, and people within the network, like my coaching students, will sell deals onto each other. I also have a group, Rooming Houses Australia, where you could go and post this stuff. Property Developers Australia. Towards like after I sold my company last year, and we can dig into any of this stuff that you want in more detail, I had probably like 3 or 4 of these and just sold them up so I could go into coaching. So I took 30% of the stock we had there. And then I also did some reno flips myself. So I had people reach out and like, hey, can you get me one of these? It's like, cool, send me $80,000. I'll go and do it. I'll make 40. And then I also teach people how to do that as well. So it's no secret, like all the numbers are there. And I'd also do some finder's fee type projects. And it sort of just brought me in chunks of cash as well as that cash flow. Sort of a long-winded answer, but basically I show people how to sell it through my network, or like how to post about it and sell through these groups.
Deliver it themselves. What's the biggest risk for these sort of accommodation types or this strategy, do you think?
The biggest risk is that you go in, it's a different beast, like in terms of property management. You have in communities politics. So even in small communities, like friend groups, like you'd imagine, like you would have experienced. So having the right systems in place is crucial. If you don't have the right systems in place for management, so I've been doing these since 2018. I put together all the systems so that these can be managed well. If you don't have the right systems, you can't choose the tenants the right way. You're not having it managed virtually. So we use virtual assistants, like the two guys in New South Wales who are doing one in Perth and Victoria. They're using virtual assistants who have been trained on these systems. Without that, you can have problems. So sometimes people will be too eager to get people in, and there's room for lower socio people, and there's room for students and working professionals. But if you're bringing in people from like homeless shelters and people with drug addictions and stuff, they're like walking chaos. They embody it, and it just spreads outwardly. So if you've got 4 of those guys in a house, it's a problem. And if you're in a different state and you're not managing it well, then it's a problem. Or you've got a regular
spiral,
yeah, it can spiral. So just understanding how to manage them, how to do the compliance so the council don't come and fine you and shut you down, how to frame it well with owners and build the pipeline. For me, it went down to where I was spending 2 hours a week, something like that, managing these things. Like right now, I'm managing 5 of these things.
For students?
Yeah, people have just reached out. Like to be honest, I'm going to get rid of that so I can focus on the students. But I have a VA that does that, who's trained on the systems, and he just sends me an email like once a week, which is much easier. So
tenant selection. What about vacancy rates and all that kind of stuff? Like take up too. 90%. I'd imagine it's a little bit like take up, vetting, inspections. I mean, you're doing that 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It can just be, I'd imagine, almost pretty time consuming.
Yeah, it can be. So the first thing that I would do, for years I'd managed that stuff myself. When I was first scaling it, I was calling and getting people in myself. I was going and doing the house setups myself. So we're really big on getting a virtual assistant to be able to make those calls for you and follow the process to fill these rooms. Airbnb's busted this thing wide open, because you'd expect when you go and sign up and go into an Airbnb that you have a key safe there, right? 50-50 chance an owner would meet you, or there'd be like a key safe for you to get access.
For an Airbnb?
Yeah. We apply a similar model with the rooming houses, where we can manage it virtually, and we can make sure that people can go down and inspect whenever they want to. So it's like we don't do 15 minutes on a Thursday when we're going to open the doors. Like we get a VA on a sales call with them to make sure that they've got all the videos. They'll sit there and watch the video with them. They'll show them photos. They'll arrange a personalized inspection. They'll get on a video call with them, give them access to the property, like a one-time passcode. They'll walk them through. And this way we can get tenants in easily, because we're not doing any of the work. We're paying someone $200 or $300 a week to do that for us. And we can have it virtually. So it's a little bit like Airbnb in terms of the remote access, but it's just managing the systems and making sure that works well.
Managing the VA and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that once you get it right, it looks like an hour or 2 a week.
With the upside of the 20 to 30 plus K.
Yeah.
What about there's no council compliance in terms of fire separation, individual dwellings, smoke alarms, fire sprinklers.
Smoke alarms?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll break it down, and the easiest way to do that is to split it into 3 classes of building. Class 1A is your residential building. When they're built new, I think you have to have interconnected smoke alarms these days. To take an older Class 1A through to a 1B, what we need is interconnected smoke alarms. We need a fire blanket, we need a fire extinguisher, and we need to go through and get a building permit for a change of use, to say that this dwelling is now going to be used technically as a commercial building.
Is that a CDC or is that a DA?
It's just a building permit through a private building surveyor.
Okay, so it can't be rejected?
No, like they just process it.
Okay, cool.
Except in New South Wales.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. New South Wales seems like we're lagging a bit on this sort of stuff with a lot of the legislation.
Yeah,
a lot of people are making these work in Victoria and other states.
Yeah, and then we go to class 3, which is, and we can define a class 1B as one or more rooms rented to 4 or more people. Mm-hmm. So if you had 3 people, it's fine, separate leases. But as soon as you got that 4th person, technically you're going to need to work with it. And we're working with the National Construction Code, the Building Code, the Health and Wellbeing Act, pulling this stuff apart. Pulling this stuff, like, with development, once you do one of them, it's like, oh, I just need to do step 1, step 2, step 3. But at the front end, you're like, crap. Like this
the first one.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, like what is this? Ecological report? Like, how am I going to, what the hell is that? Like, is there an endangered owl on this bit of land that I need to watch out for or whatever else? And then you're doing a land subdivision.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, so it's a problem. It seems like a problem, but you do it once and then it's like, oh, I know how to, there's 10 problems. I know how to solve them all. And you can start getting that done. With the 1Bs, it's going to be 1 or more rooms rented to 4 or more people, and it has to be under 300 meters square.
The floor plan?
The floor size of the house, not the lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then over 300 meters square or over 9 bedrooms, we go into class 3, sprinkler systems. You have to have a fire panel that's linked to the fire department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's keeping that under 9 basically,
keeping
because
that
starts
under 9.
to get expensive.
Yeah.
What are we talking in terms of pricing, conversion, throwing up walls, creating additional bedrooms?
Yeah. So it's going to be between $500 and $700 per linear meter of wall to construct. If you're using a carpenter, if you're using a builder, it's probably like 10 grand. I don't know what they're charging, but we use like carpenters. We use carpenters who can go in and do that. So we want to spend like $400 or $600 a day. Mm-hmm. There'll be people listening here who do carpentry. Like, that's not fucking enough, but there's still people who would do it.
You'll be able to find them, yeah.
Yeah, like you can find a handyman. Non-structural works to a class 1A building don't require a building permit. Mm-hmm. So you can find a handyman to go and do that stuff. If it's structural, it's a different story. It's like the question of how much is it to do a renovation is like me asking you how much does it cost to buy a property. You'd be like, what? That's like it's
depending on
So it's like, are we talking regional New South Wales or are you going to CBD Gold Coast? Like, I'm confused. Like, it's different. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like it's not really a question you can answer like that. So I'm going to give you a range. Generally, Perth can be around 10 to 20 grand to set up. Victoria is more like 30 to 60. Mm-hmm. And again, like if we're doing all bathrooms everywhere, then you can go all the way up to like 200 grand or more. Or you can go in and just try and negotiate 1 month rent free, right? And go into Perth and not do any furnishings and use the walls that are already there, and it's 4 grand. So what I teach my students is, because the way we operate it, we give them the training and then we do the coaching with them for 8 weeks. So it's like me and you talking here.
Yep.
So if Steve comes to me and Steve says, hey, I've got 50 grand, what should I do? Then we can work with that. And it's like, okay, your goal is going to be X amount of cash flow for yourself. Let's say 70 grand. Let's go to Victoria. We'll do one of these things. We'll try and get a 5-year lease. But if I have Shelley who comes to me and she says, you know, I've got 5 grand. And it's like, cool, well, let's get you on the phone, find one of these deals, sell it on, make 20 grand, right? And then go and do one in Perth. Or partner up with another student who's got money because you've got time and maybe they've got 100 grand. You can go and say, let's go and do 3 of these in Perth, or let's go and do 1 of these in Victoria. Mm-hmm. They do the work and they get whatever they negotiate on.
So I'm just thinking upfront costs is once we find that arbitrage, once we do the numbers, we find those bigger bedroom places. Yeah. We look at, is there any rules of thumb between what a per bedroom rate needs to be compared to the room of the house and the rent of the house? So for example, you know, is it that, you know, the room rate needs to be half of what I can rent the entire house for, or maybe a third? So like $600 a week house. I know I can rent each room for 200 and I need a X amount. You got any sort of variables in terms of that stuff? Or
Nah, usually the napkin math will look like the amount of rooms we can do times the average room rent. So it's like the room rent's for $300.
Yep.
300 times 6 minus the rent. And then we have our average and we say, oh, that's going to make heaps. And you sort of, there would be variables like that you could work on. For example, in Victoria, I don't think you'd want to pay any more than like $1,400 a week in rent for this thing to make, you know, that 60 or 70 grand.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's closer to about 1,200. And you sort of start to pick this stuff up as you're moving forward. And you could apply the same thing to different areas of different states, but there's no hard and fast rule of thumb. If I was good with maths, I'm sure that I could say it's going to be a percentage above it, but I'm just not that great. What I would do is I'd look first for any properties that looked suitable. Like this one's got a rumpus room and a lounge. I reckon I can do an extra 2 rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Open the tab up in a new tab, and then I go through all the new listings, and then I go through one by one, click each of the tabs, and I'd be like, okay, what do the numbers look like on this? Yep, qualified. What do the numbers look like this? Qualified. And I go through all the tabs for that day, the last 24 hours, move them into a sheet, and then just call and hit them up.
Those tabs are what? Properties that are...
Properties that I have floor plans that lean towards the idea of
being able to convert some.
Yeah, it's so
that's step one.
Yep.
You find the property.
Yep.
You want to see if the property manager will work with you, which is step 2.
Yeah, so it's get the shortlist.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2 is going to be to like practice speaking on the phone. A lot of people on the phone, they have no conviction, and that's a problem because people will trust you based on your conviction a lot of the time. And it helps if you know what you're talking about.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that with our members too, with needing to call agents and that kind of stuff. They can smell it a mile away.
Yeah.
So, look, I've got an agent. Cool, he's working with me, sent me a deal, and then a little bit of negotiation. Me as a person that's doing these would then sign the head lease. Is that how you're doing it?
Head lease.
So that is all that income is coming into your personal name then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it in the personal name because you get reamed with personal tax.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've already got a job and you're making 70 grand a year, then I probably wouldn't get it all put into your personal name because you're going to get like hit with like a 40% tax rate or 50% tax rate or whatever it is, right? I'd put it into a company. I'd pay company tax on that, and I'd just draw it down as you need it. Like if your goal is to, like if you've got enough money coming in from your job, let's say, and then you've got some money to invest, but you're stuck with serviceability or whatever it is, but you've got 200 grand, you just can't do anything with it. And it's like, oh, let's wait 10 years or let's go and get this, go and get one of these properties, set it up in the company, let the cash flow build for however long, and then run it again until I've got enough money coming in there to quit this job and then go all in on the job.
So have that set up, my compliance, my renovations and all that kind of stuff. And then, I mean, any tricks around just getting them leased out?
So yeah.
It seems, I don't know if anyone is listening to this and think what I'm thinking. It just seems too good to be true. So I'm just going through and asking the questions about where the actual...
100%.
Where...
Yeah.
Now, if it's too good to be true, low barrier to entry, why isn't everyone doing it? Would be my question.
Because people, like if we got 100 owners in a room and we asked them what the plan is, 99% of them would say, I'm going to buy this thing, I'm going to hold it, I'm going to try and pay as much, I'm going to try and make as much income as I can from it. I want low maintenance. I don't want to have to look at it. And then in 10 or 20 years, I'm going to have this nest egg, right? Yep. That's basically the plan. All right, I'm going to refinance after 6 years and then we're going to go get this other thing and, you know, whatever it is. And maybe one of those guys says, oh, I bought it to rent rooms. Like a lot of people, it's just out of the scope of what they think they could be doing with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that works in our favor because a lot of and also a lot of owners, they're happy in their jobs as well. Like I speak to the 30% who are just discontent, who are just like, fuck this. I don't want to be here until I'm 60. I don't trust the government to pay me my super. I need to set up some cash flow. And a lot of people just aren't going to be able to do it. That's the reality.
Yep.
So I speak to those guys. But for a lot of investors, it's like, I really enjoy teaching. I really enjoy finance. I really enjoy whatever. And I'm building the family and we have a good life. And we can offer them a better look on their spreadsheet. For me, it's obvious same as you. It's like, of course I'm doing this. Like 100% I'm doing this. That's why I do it. That's why I've done it. And I want to help people. I want to help people be able to leave those jobs as well, and help the younger me who grew up in a poor family and stuff, and saw those fights in the family house, and be like, well, if there was an extra little bit of cash there, then it wouldn't maybe not have been like that.
Yeah, money stems from it.
Yeah, so I sort of built a little bit of a mission around it because I've always sort of been like that. But I mean, I'd do it. I'd do it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, of course. And I suppose my last question around that proposition to the landlord: are you putting in a rental increase over, like, let's say, like, what's your goal? Because I can't imagine if you invested all this stuff into it and you're putting up walls and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be worth your while over a 12-month period.
No.
What's your ideal lease length initially for a landlord? And are you doing any increases per year? Like, you saying, look, we'll give you an X amount increase per year, or?
Yeah. So we'll either peg it to the CPI, or it'll be 3 to 5% increase per annum.
Okay.
We'll shoot for a minimum of 5 years. And the rule of thumb is we want our cash back in the first year.
In terms of profit and the cash to get into the permits to the... Okay.
Yeah. Well, like, we'd be happy spending 40 grand on it if we're going to make that 40 grand back in the first year. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty solid model if you want to start generating income.
What's your exit strategy if you just can't get these places rented? Is to just turn it back onto a...
That's right. So a part of your question before was like, where's the brakes on this thing?
Yeah.
So when we're looking at a property, what we want to be doing is running a test ad. So we can put up 2 or 3 ads on Facebook and Flatmates, right? If the average room rental is $297, we'll do one at $297, $277, $247, and we can get ChatGPT to say, put a black wall on this one, rearrange the furniture, whatever else, like a similar property to the one we're looking at getting, and we let the market decide what that room's worth. So we can look at the averages in the data, and we know based on all the sales, or in this case, rentals in the last 24 months, this room's worth this. But to do it at another level, what we want to do is split test the pricing and talk to the market, or let the market talk to us. And then it's like, we're negotiating this thing. Yeah, I'll sign it tomorrow. It's 3 p.m. Give me till 5 o'clock tomorrow. And you run that ad for 24 hours.
Is that what you're doing? A 24-hour ad?
Yeah, you do like a 24-hour ad. And
you get enough traction and clicks?
Speed is king with rent to rent. And we're looking for, I'd write this down if you're looking at doing this. It's 5 to 8 inquiries in a 24-hour period. That thing's pretty hot. It's going to fill pretty quickly. Okay. You've only got 8 rooms, let's say we've got 10% of those people who are willing to come on board. Like, again, my maths is horrible, but it's like, it's not too long. Yeah, right. And we can say, I'm probably going to do it at $300 a room, but I can see that the market loves it at $240, and that's going to pay me back my year's income anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to make sure I can fill this thing quickly, and then I'm going to pull the trigger on a rent increase at X date, let's say before uni starts, when the demand is inflated in this area of demand, and then just run it like that. So it's like, I'm going to drastically decrease the chances that this thing won't fill, and I'm doing that based on data and market feedback. Even if it's in a short window, give yourself 3 days and run it. But if you can get those 5 to 8. Yeah. So if the rooms don't fill, that's the risk. There's nothing that's going to be risk-free. Again, so I teach my students how to hedge their risk. Yep. What furnishings do you need to put in there? How big do these rooms need to be legally and for the appeal? What sort of things do they want in there? Like, do they need, fridges? What do they need? And so, how do the photos need to look? How do we speak with the agents? How do we make sure this is going to be good? What are our rules of thumb around how much capital we want to be getting back from that? So these are the things that I sort of help students with. The compliance is a big one because, you don't want to go and spend 40 grand or 10 grand or even like 2 grand and just find out that the council says, hey, we're going to shut it down, and also here's a fine. It's like, oh, great, So you need to know, even if there's no actual compliance in terms of registration, you need to know all of the other things around the building regulations.
Building regulations and compliance. Well, look, Vincent, I appreciate you, and it's an interesting, it's an interesting topic, and it's an interesting way for people essentially to, we always talk about no money down deals, and that's always a buzzword. It's obviously not no money down, but it is very limited money down, and it's a way
you can do them with no money.
Yeah, of course. Then you got to borrow someone's money and and do it that way for sure.
Or find one and sell it.
Find one and sell it.
Yeah.
But look, it's really interesting, and appreciate the discussion, because the room arbitrage, there's not too many people talking too much about it. So obviously interested to chat to someone that's doing it. The way we usually wrap up the podcast is we ask you for quote you live your life by, and one bit of advice that you can leave for our audience. Can be life, can be business, can be property.
So early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. Love that. People need to know what you're doing, and you want to draw your crowd around you, even in friend groups. Mm-hmm. So wear your heart on your sleeve and be authentic, because that's still advertising. Like, if you can be your true self, then you can be surrounded by a tight-knit circle of people who would actually have your back and actually have time for you and know the real you. But if you put on a mask, which I feel like a lot of people do in the workforce these days, like they come in the suits and whatever else, and it's just, you can just tell it's not them. They're not being real with you, and you can sort of see through that. And the result of that is that you end up surrounded by people and connected to no one. So I would just go for gold on that. The bit of advice that I'd give is that every one of us, whether or not you're into like woo-wee spirituality or God or just logic, we all have this internal compass, and it tells us what's right and what's wrong and sort of where to turn and what we should be doing. And it comes through like, I should be doing this. I should be eating less sugar. I should be drinking less coffee. I should be really exercising. I should be doing that. This little voice, this little compass, I think is the path to freedom. And a lot of people neglect that in their life. So when you get the knock at the door, answer it and step up to the plate so you can live how you're actually called to live. Because the last thing you want to do is get to the end of your life, or to God or to heaven or whatever else, or even just in your deathbed and be like, fuck, I never did the thing. And I knew I always should, and I just didn't do it. So that compass is, whatever you want to call it, it's a compass. It's the guide, and it's really important to answer that stuff. So.
Man, it's 100% agree. You'd rather die knowing than always have that pain of regret.
Give it a crack.
Well, look, Vincent Holthouse, really appreciate you joining us on the Everything Property podcast.
Thanks, mate.